Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to the book club. I'm Gustavo Tolosa, and we are currently reading Undo It by Dr. Dean Ornish. I also I always like to see where you're logging in from, so please feel free to type. I'd love to see your names and where. So Montana, I see. Who else is here? All right. So today we are going to start on page 21 of the book. And today I think is going to be one of the most important sessions that we have. This is session 2, where we talk about a word that is, I call it the scary word because it is. And that scary word is inflammation. Inflammation, as we will see here, is opens up the door to most of these diseases that kill millions of people. Inflammation can also be good for us, but not when it is chronic. So remember this word. You really don't want constant, chronic, over the time inflammation. And you need to know what causes that inflammation. So I'm sure that you know now because you've read the book. Please, if you haven't purchased it, I told you that I don't receive any benefits, financial benefits from the book club or the book sales. But please, if you don't have it, purchase it because it's so important that you read the pages before we discuss it. And please feel free to type questions or comments about what we're discussing. So we also have New Hampshire, we have Florida, Kentucky, New York, Idaho, Indiana. Wonderful. Thank you for being here. So on page 21, Dr. Ornish says, an unhealthy diet, which means a sedentary lifestyle, you don't do much in the form of exercise, even walking, chronic stress, social isolation, and of course, an unhealthy diet. These things can increase inflammation, where a healthy diet and moderate exercise and stress management techniques and love and intimacy each decrease it. So inflammation is a powerful immune mechanism in your body for healing. So it's not all bad. But remember that inflammation has a very specific reason, a very specific, a specific part in healing our bodies. And Dr. Ornish really explains it very, very well. The best that I've read, and I've read many books. And when our tissues are injured by bacteria or trauma or toxins or heat or any other causes, the body will respond with inflammation. It helps infections and wounds to heal and toxins to be eliminated. Inflammation can be healing when it's acute. So when it's not chronic, as you know, means long periods of time when it's developed through time. Acute is specific and it's for a very determined period of time. Inflammation can be healing when it's acute, but it can be deadly when it's chronically activated and stays on high alert due to the same lifestyle factors. Another example of too much of a good thing. So, hallmarks of acute or good inflammation include enhanced immune function. This results from the release of white blood cells and other mediators of immunity, which neutralize and remove invading organisms. So you also have inflammation when you have pain. Chemicals that stimulate nerve endings are released, making the area more sensitive so you don't touch it and allow the area to repair itself. And then he lists other things like redness and heat, swelling and immobility, and this is phagocytosis, okay? Chemicals released by damaged cells also attract white blood cells called phagocytes that eat germs and dead or damaged cells. I think these book concepts are so important. I'm giving this book to all my kids for their birthdays. Great. This really is a book to have and to read. So acute inflammation comes on quickly and resolves rapidly. That's what we need to remember about acute inflammation. It comes on quickly and it resolves rapidly, usually lasting for only a few days or so until the healing occurs. So basically, acute inflammation occurs to heal something that happened to the body. So this is what I find very interesting to understand. In contrast, chronic inflammation tends to occur more slowly, but may last for months or even years. It plays an important role in almost every major chronic disease, including cancer, heart disease, diabetes, depression, dementia, among others. And then he says, okay, let's take the arteries. Chronic inflammation injures the lining of your arteries. You know that our arteries inside, they have this lining, very thin. Your body's attempt to heal these recurrent injuries is like putting a Band-Aid on the damage to the lining of an artery. And then, as the injuries continue, more and more Band-Aids get piled on top of each other, progressively obstructing the flow of blood. This can lead to the buildup of plaque, atherosclerosis in your arteries, which reduces blood flow to your heart and brain, causing angina, which is chest pain, a heart attack, or a stroke. Inflammation also makes these plaques more unstable, which can cause them to rupture or a blood clot to form that closes off blood flow downstream, leading to a heart attack or stroke. So I want you to really picture this, the inside of an artery that gets inflamed, that gets red. And so the body does what it knows what to do, and it wants to repair it. And you can imagine a little thin Band-Aid. But that injury keeps happening, and it happens with every meal, every breakfast, every lunch, every dinner, every snack in the sad standard American diet. it's a constant attack to the lining of the arteries. So it can never you can never get over it. So the next injury comes in, another little band-aid goes on top of the previous one, and then another meal that is high in fat and cholesterol and all sorts of trans fat and sugar and white flour, all those things that inflame the inside of the arteries. And those band-aids pile up to the point where the inside of the artery gets halfway full with those band-aids. And then eventually it gets so clogged up that it produces a heart attack or a stroke. Brain. In your brain, chronic inflammation and oxidative stress can lead to emotional depression and also to buildup of plaque. And that's called amyloid. And neurofibrillary, I think that's how you say it. I'm not sure, in your brain. Over time, this can lead to Alzheimer's disease by short-circuiting the neurons and causing neural degeneration and progressive dementia. Blockages of arteries reducing blood flow to your brain can lead to vascular dementia. So then he moves on to the joints. In your joints, chronic inflammation can lead to arthritis. Then he moves on to the pancreas. Chronic inflammation of the pancreas can lead to insulin resistance. We hear so much about insulin resistance, and all it is really is inflammation of the pancreas, type 2 diabetes, pancreatitis, and obesity. And too much insulin promotes chronic inflammation in a vicious cycle. And then he mentions cancer, oncogenes that promote prostate cancer, breast cancer, and colon cancer do so in part by causing inflammation at every stage in a cancer's growth. Some researchers believe that an inflammatory microenvironment is essential for all cancers. Smoking also promotes lung cancer by causing chronic inflammation. A sedentary lifestyle increases inflammation, whereas exercise decreases it. Only 20 minutes of walking significantly reduces markers of inflammation. So I want to encourage you. I encourage you because I encourage myself, since I've never been the kind that likes exercise. And but I encourage you. My exercise is walking, and I walk very fast, and I walk up and down hills. But you can walk slowly, and you can walk on a treadmill or somewhere flat. But do try. You may need to start with 10 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day, whatever it is, but start. You can add it throughout the day. Don't park, at the very front of the store, things like that. So on page 23, Dr. Ornish says, a typical American diet is high in animal protein, which increases production of interleukins, blood chemicals that promote chronic inflammation. So basically, a diet that is high in animal protein, and we talked a lot about animal protein in other books of the book club and how bad it is, because excessive protein is not the same as excessive starches or non-refined carbohydrates. Those can be expelled, or they can be, the body can get rid of that. But with the body really struggles with getting rid of excessive protein. And we don't need a lot of proteins, just regular people. I'm not talking about athletes and people that run marathons and things like that. So just know that animal protein increases inflammation. In contrast, plant-based proteins are low in inflammatory stimulants and contain literally thousands of protective substances such as phytochemicals, bioflavonoids, retinols, isoflavones, and others that actively decrease rather than increase chronic inflammation. So here's another thing that I don't know if you are familiar with, and it is the IGF-1 factor. Dr. Ornish says, reducing animal protein intake is known to reduce levels of a growth factor called IGF-1, which promotes chronic inflammation, and lower IGF-1 levels are linked to longer lifespan and reduction in the risk of cancer and diabetes. Most fruits and vegetables are anti-inflammatory, especially blueberries, which I try to include in every breakfast when I have oatmeal or any time that I can. So blueberries, strawberries, any kind of berries, really. Also tomatoes, nuts, and of course, cruciferous vegetables such as broccoli and any of the green leaves like kale, especially, and spinach and Swiss chard, things like that. Intake of dietary cholesterol, which is only found in animal products, and harmful fats such as most saturated fats, hydrogenated fats, and trans fats increase chronic inflammation. In contrast, beneficial fats in moderate amounts, such as omega-3 acids, 3 grams per day, and nuts in moderation, decrease it. So do tea, coffee, magnesium, curcumin, a substance found in turmeric, and ginger, among others. So on page 24, on the third paragraph, Dr. Ornish says, naturally occurring sugars, when found in unprocessed fruits and vegetables, decrease inflammation. So here's something important for us to know. Another thing, because people say, oh, sugar is bad for you, bad. And you hear all sorts of things people hear, and people want to believe what they want to believe. But some people say don't eat fruit. There's nothing wrong with the sugar that comes from unprocessed fruit that has all the fiber and water and phytonutrients in it, like Dr. Ornish says. However, added sugar, high fructose corn syrup, and refined carbohydrates such as white flour can cause chronic inflammation. So I would definitely try not to consume white flour. There's whole wheat flour. There's other flours. There's bread like Ezekiel and things like that have sprouts. So those refined carbohydrates can cause chronic inflammation. Also on page 24, he says, processing whole wheat flour into white flour or brown rice into white rice removes the fiber and bran. This turns healthy carbohydrates into unhealthy ones that promote inflammation. Fiber and bran fill you up before you get too many calories. Oh, yes. That's basically the, uh, yeah, that says it all. That is the one point to know about calorie density. How can you not feel restricted and not feel like you're starving and not stuff? You don't have to stuff yourself, but feel totally um, satisfied when you eat? Well, if you eat food that has fiber or fiber and bran plus water in it, then you will get full before you get too many calories. Also, they slow the rate of absorption from your gut into your blood, so your blood sugar rises slowly and not too high. Yeah, when you have so much fiber, it regulates your blood sugar. It's very important. When fiber and bran are removed, your food gets rapidly absorbed, causing your blood sugar to spike to high levels, which in turn causes your pancreas to secrete insulin to bring your blood sugar back down. After a while, it's as if these repeated surges of insulin cause your insulin receptors to say, oh no, no more insulin. So they downregulate and become less sensitive. Because of this, your body needs to make more and more insulin to lower your blood sugar an equivalent amount. And that is what is called insulin resistance. Insulin resistance also causes inflammation by increasing secretion of what are called cytokines, yes, from immune function cells. A vicious cycle results in which more insulin causes more inflammation, which causes more insulin resistance, often leading to metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes. So, he says, to finish that area of the book, he says chronic emotional stress also causes chronic inflammation. This occurs via changes in stress hormones and direct connections between your brain and nerves all over your body, as described below. And then below, on page 25 and 26, he describes that. And it's wonderful how he describes it, how clearly he does. So let's see. One of you says, when I wake in the morning, my hands and joints are swollen and stiff. If I've eaten added sugars where fruit does not have this effect. That's correct. Yes. All right. So another thing that he discusses here is gene expression, the idea that we are doomed to our genes, and that is not true. At one point, people thought that. Well, actually, a lot of people still think that. Oh, my grandfather had diabetes, so I'm doomed to have diabetes no matter what I do. No, it's not that way. Dr. Ornish on page 27 says, we're not merely victims of our genes. We have more control than we may realize. My colleagues and I conducted research showing that changing lifestyle actually changes your genes. Molecular switches are very responsive to lifestyle changes. We found that more than 500 genes were favorably changed in study participants after only 3 months on our lifestyle medicine program. Hundreds of oncogenes that promote prostate cancer, breast cancer, colon cancer, and other conditions were switched off in only 3 months. And not only that, But this study that he's talking about has been published. Uh, we published this research with Dr. J. Craig Venter, the first person to sequence a human genome. Where did they publish it? In the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. So these studies are out there for your doctor to see. And it's a shame if they don't read this research. And it's a shame if they don't tell patients and give them the option. I know that there are patients that don't want to change their way of eating, and they rather die eating their steak and hamburgers and chicken fried steak or whatever, or they may choose to take a number of prescription drugs who have horrible side effects. But there are those like me, maybe like you, that would have liked at one point of our lives, in our lives, to be told that there is another way and given us the chance to think and to decide as intelligent human beings of what we want to do with our own bodies. But that did not happen, and it doesn't happen unless the patient has a very unusual doctor, or unless the patient takes, the research in their hands. One of you says, my older brother said he wakes up with tight joints. I said, I eat whole food, plant-based, and wake up with no problems. Yes. If people just tried it for 10 days, and that's usually what I say. I just say, I learned this from Dr. Lyle as well. So that there is no resistance, you may say something like, this may not be for everybody, or it may not be for you, but give it a try. Just give it a try. 10 days is not long. Give it a try and see how you feel. And if they're not willing to give 10 days out of their entire life to try something that may be the answer to all their health problems, or most of them, then I guess the next, go to the next. So on page 28, the last two paragraphs, Dr. Ornish says, for example, a soy burger cooked in a microwave has only 20 AGE units. AGE, it's explained earlier. Let's see. Well, it is advanced glycation end products. Okay, so you want to have low numbers there. So a soy burger cooked in a microwave has only 20 AGE units. Cooking it in a pan with a little vegetable oil spray increases it to 30 units. Adding 1 tablespoon of olive oil onto the pan increases it to 131 AGE units. In contrast, a turkey burger cooked in a pan with a little vegetable oil has 7,000. We have gone from 20 in a soy burger cooked in a microwave, from 20 to 7,171 when it's meat. It's just crazy. In the meantime, it's clear that changing your diet in the ways outlined in this book will reduce AGEs and increase sirtuins, providing yet another mechanism to explain why a whole food, plant-based way of eating is so beneficial. On page 21, he says, in anti-aging research, caloric restriction has been shown to slow the aging process in animals, in part by reducing AGE. But of course, restricting calories, it's hard to sustain because most people don't like to feel hungry all the time. One way to accomplish this is to have an early dinner and a late breakfast so that you have at least 12 hours between meals, sometimes called intermittent fasting, which may cause you to feel better well fast. I don't know if you've ever tried it, but give it a try. You will feel a lightness in your body that is hard to describe when you have an early dinner. By early dinner, we mean no more than 6 p.m. And then a late breakfast. And by late breakfast, we mean 10, 10-ish, 9, 10 in the morning. Okay. Um, Give it a try. Again, doing this one time in your life is not going to kill you. So give it a try. One of you says, I'm moving that direction more and more, but the treats are the hardest for me, even though I see the deleterious consequences overnight. I'm getting better and I am feeling better. Yeah, yeah. Let's see. We are all humans and we have temptations. Your temptation may be nuts and seeds. That person may be, I don't know, avocados. Another person may be cheese. I don't know. For me, it's a flour. So anything that has flour is a temptation. So when I see something and I feel the weakness of the flesh, and I almost, I see something, I don't have it in the house. Or I'm driving, or I go by a bakery and I smell that, I start to talk to myself. I don't know if you've tried this. I just did it yesterday. I literally talked myself out. I was in the car and I wanted to stop at this bakery. I was going to get something healthy, something whole wheat, but I really am trying to not eat any bread. So I talked myself out and I said, that's not good for you. Why do you want to do something that will give you 30 seconds of pleasure and then you will feel bad about it 30 hours, like, for or long time? Uh, and I start just I say things to myself. You want to see, you want to live until you're 100, right? Um, you want to learn all this music. You want to enjoy your children, right? You want to see them and be able to be active in their lives. I just start telling myself things like, oh, and remember when you take a shower, how awful it feels to not want to look in the mirror if you're overweight. I just tell myself, and each one of us may have a different way of talking to ourselves, but basically I say, that's not. Another thing I say, that's not for you. It's really not for you. It doesn't go well. So anyway, I thought of that because it says here that it is hard to sustain if to feel hungry. But if you try it while you're sleeping, it's less difficult. One of the easiest ways to restrict calories without feeling hungry is to change the type of food rather than the amount of food. This is like one of those brilliant sentences that are so easy to understand, to read. But when you think about it, most people, when you say, well, let's restrict the calories, most people are going to start making the portions smaller and smaller and restrict. And nobody likes to be restricted and restrict and cut and not. But instead of restricting the amount, restrict the type. That is, eat less sugar and refined carbohydrates and consume less fat. Consume more whole food, plant-based but whole. When you eat good carbs, such as whole grains, the fiber fills you up before you get too many calories. The same happens with sweet potatoes. The same happens with potatoes. The same happens with beans and rice. These are foods that either have water in them or they're cooked in water, and then it absorbs the water and the fiber is intact, and it produces satiety in your body. All right. So on page 32, he says, the point is this: even when there is a known genetic predisposition to developing metastatic lethal cancer and other chronic diseases, the lifestyle medicine program outlined in this book may help prevent this from happening. And then at the bottom of page 32, he says, I have had the privilege of being one of President Bill Clinton's consulting physicians since 1993, when Hillary Clinton asked me to advise the chefs who cooked for them at the White House, at Camp David, and on Air Force One to make healthier meals. The president initially did well and lost 26 pounds, but later, with the stresses of what he was going through politically, he understandably paid less attention to his diet and lifestyle choices at the time. In 2004, he underwent bypass surgery on 4 of his clogged coronary arteries. In February 2010, he learned that one of his 4 bypass surgery grafts had clogged up since his operation almost 6 years earlier, and he had 2 stents placed to open it up. At a press conference, then one of his doctors said this was not a result of either his lifestyle or his diet, implying that it was because of his genes. After watching this press conference, I sent an email to President Clinton saying, in effect, that it wasn't all in his genes, and if he would be willing to make bigger changes in his diet and lifestyle, there was a good chance that he could reverse his coronary heart disease. Our genes are a predisposition, but our genes are not our fate, I wrote to him. If they were, then you'd be a victim, but you're not. You are one of the most powerful people on the planet. You're genetically predisposed to having heart disease because it runs in your family. But this just means that you need to make bigger changes to prevent or reverse it than someone else might. Our DNA is not our destiny. We met together soon after, and he began following the lifestyle medicine program described in this book. He's remained on it since then, and he has talked publicly about how he continues to follow this program and is doing very well. Whatever your politics are in our increasingly polarized nation, when a former president of the United States, especially one known for not eating in a healthy way, is successfully able to make and maintain these beneficial lifestyle changes, and it improves his health so much over a period of many years, this sets a great example for everyone. These are human issues that transcend politics. And then on page 34, he says, coronary artery disease mortality was 16 times higher for American men and almost 6 times higher for US women than for their Chinese counterparts. Unfortunately, this is now changing as many people in Asia are beginning to eat like us. And that's because he was talking about how 50, 60 years ago, cancer and diabetes were virtually unknown in Asia. But like he says here, mortality was 16 times higher for American men than Chinese, and 6 times higher for US women than the Chinese counterparts. But that is not the case when these um, Chinese or Japanese or Asians move to America and they start to consume the American diet, which is something that also proves that it's not all in the genes. Because when they were back in China or Japan, they had the same genes that they're having when they're in America, but over there, they're not having any of these horrible diseases. And when they move to America and eat the standard American diet, they start to develop these. Genes don't change. The genes really didn't change. It was the food. So I think that we're about ready to. I'm sorry in a way. I'm not sorry, but I'm sorry that I wanted to get through chapter 2, and I promised that next week we'll do chapter 2 and 3. But I think that inflammation, it's something that should be talked about every day. The doctors should talk about inflammation, and they should talk about what causes inflammation, and they should talk about how serious it is to have chronic inflammation. So then that's why I wanted to spend time on this. And then he talks about our microbiome, which is, like he says here, it's kind of shocking to learn that there are more than 100 trillion organisms growing inside our bodies. Basically, we are bugs. We're these organisms, 100 trillion. And this way of eating promotes these organisms to do good to our body. And we'll start there. But here he says on page 37, overuse of antibiotics caused harmful changes in your microbiome, since antibiotics kill good microbes as well as harmful ones, as well as increasing drug resistance. Just a single week-long course of antibiotics can change your gut microbiome for up to a year. So 1 week of taking antibiotics will change your microbiome for more than a year. So I will read a little bit more about the relationship between inflammation and neuropathy, and I'll give you the answer next week. A friend of mine has just received a pacemaker. Do you know how it works? And the pacemaker? No, I don't. So I'm sorry, but nowadays we have this marvelous thing called Google. So we can. I'm going to look it up, but I will also ask doctors. I can ask several doctors about it, and I will have the answer. I've always told you that if I don't have the answer, I will get it for you. Before we close, I will let you know that I have filmed 9 videos. 5 of them are called Cooking with Gustavo, in which I have meals that are easy and delicious for breakfast, like the Warriors Bowl for breakfast, the end of the month salad when money is running low, my famous, most delicious grandmother's baked polenta. What else? I have 4 really good sweet potato desserts. I have the crunchy and stuffed potato balls. What else do I have? I have mushroom spinach tomato sauce. I have eggplant meatballs. Of course, I don't have meat, but cooked in tomato sauce. They're delicious. I have crunchy, crispy eggplant milanesas, they're called. I also have a potato stuffed cabbage cups, which is delicious. And I have my peach raspberry stuffed apples. And oh, yeah, gnocchi, the Italian pasta. But it's a pasta that is made with potatoes. The original one has some flour, a little bit of flour, but I show you how to make it without flour. So you can have your gnocchi with this great tomato sauce that I show you how to make. I also show you how to make stuffed and roasted pears. Then another recipe from my grandmother, who was from Spain, a Valencian rice, kind of like paella style, and gazpacho soup. Anyway, and in many of these videos, besides cooking, I play the piano for you. So they are about $12 each, but I'm doing a little, what do you call it? A combination, I guess, bundle. And in this bundle, you pay $12.97 and you get all 9 videos that you can watch forever. And you get the PDF with all the recipes. So it's just for a limited time. And I put the link there if you want to get it. I will send you, once you purchase it, I'll send you all that. They're really fun to watch. All right, everybody. I'll see you next Sunday, and we will finish chapter 2 and chapter 3. And then I'm going to have Ann Ornish, Dr. Ornish, as his wife, as a guest in another couple of weeks. So I hope that you will join for that as well. Have a wonderful week, everyone, and stay healthy. And I'm always an email away if you ever want to email me. Bye-bye, everyone.